Oops. Hello, I'm Robin Vincent and welcome to Molten Music Technology. Arturia have sent me a keyboard. They asked me if I'd like to do a video on their awesome new spangled KeyStep Pro. And then they sent me this, sort of by accident, instead. So rather than be disappointed, I thought, no, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to review a bit more of an entry-level MIDI controller, something that's likely to find its way into the hands of someone who's doing this for the first time or needs something that's small and compact and pretty good value. And so in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Arturia Microlab in orange. Whoops. It's a sort of MIDI controller that can survive a drop because of this awesome sort of plastic padding around the outside. But also in this video, this has given me the opportunity to tackle two of the biggest pains in the arse when it comes to making music on your computer, particularly if this is your first time. Those two things are dealing with latency, that's a delay between hitting a key and hearing a sound, which I'll come on to in a minute. The other thing is how on earth you get this to work and get audio out of your iPhone at the same time. So I'm going to start off with a review of the features and functionality of this little thing, and then I'll go into how you set it up with a Windows computer and then how you set it up on your iPhone. Brilliant! Of course, if you have a MacBook or a big Apple Mac, then you'll just plug it in and it will work. So I don't want to hear about that, but using it with Windows and other devices can be a bit more of a struggle. But first, the Microlab. So what's it about? Well, it's a little plastic MIDI controller. It has here 2 octaves of playableness. They are slim keys. They're a bit like they've got on the KeyStep. They feel all right. I will set it next to some alternative keyboards at some point so you can see without any feeling yourself of exactly how they feel or not. But what does this little thing have? Well, first of all, and this is actually remarkably useful, it has a built-in USB cable. It's here, it's in the side. What you do is you pop that out and then it unwinds through this bit, right? That's genius. Because USB cables are a pain. They get everywhere, they get in your way, you can never find the right one that you're after, and it's always cluttering up the place. So with this one, when you're taking it off and you want to go and do something else somewhere else, put it in your backpack, you can then just rewind it around the edge. Although I have to say it's much harder to put back in than it is to get off. But yeah, if you push on it hard enough, you can get that back into the side, and then it's brilliant. You don't ever have to lose your cable again. So that's good. Let's plug it into something. So here I've plugged it into the Surface Pro 7. This is a Windows computer. It's not an iPad. It's a Surface Pro tablet laptop hybrid. Yeah, right, okay. It's just a Windows computer running Windows software. And this comes with a couple of decent bits of software. First of all, it comes with a piano, software piano. It comes with a version of Analog Lab, which is Arturia's sort of huge workstation synthesizer preset machine, and it comes with an 8-track copy of Bitwig, which is a recording environment, so you can actually make music with it. There you are. Lovely. It's a MIDI controller. It's a little mini piano and it plays sounds. Now the sounds are coming from the computer. It's coming from this piece of software called Analog Lab. Now the version of Analog Lab I have on my computer is the big fully expanded version, whereas the version you get with this in the box is a selection of a couple of hundred presets, I think. So you may not necessarily get the exact sound that I'm using, but you'll get a decent selection. And in fact the Analog Lab software it's pretty good. It's pretty excellent. The sound quality certainly comes from all of their high-end, high-priced software synthesizers. And so the sounds you're going to be getting are going to be pretty good. Now, what can this offer in terms of using that piece of software? Well, you've already seen you can cover all of the octaves up and down using these little buttons at the side. If you want to get back to the middle, just press them both together. You can also use these buttons here to move through presets in the software. If I hold Shift and press the octave button, it'll take me to the next preset. See, I told you the sounds are nice. I also have two strips here on the side. One's a pitch, and the other one is modulation, which can be mapped to all sorts of things. Depending on the preset. You also have some editing control in the software itself. Filter, for instance. Try another preset. A couple of other features are, here is a hold button. When that's enabled, you get sustain. Because there are no sustain ports on this, there's no room for a foot pedal or anything like that, but you can just turn sustain on by hitting the hold button. So without it, then with sustain on. There's another cool feature in here, which is that it has a chord mode. So if I hold Shift and hold at the same time, play a chord, it will then remember that, and I can play that as a single note, either with sustain on or not. And to get rid of it, I just press the same thing again. Then it's gone. Let's try a different chord. It's nice, it's nice. The other thing you can do is get to presets using one of the strips here. So I can hold Shift, I can go up and down on this little strip, and it then browses through the presets on the screen. Go to wherever it is that I'm after, and then tap it to load it. You can also use a similar effect on the pitch strip here by holding Shift and go through different categories. So if I want just synth sounds, I can select that and then just go through synths rather than absolutely everything. Or if I want pianos, I can go through that. Pianos, suitcase, let me bring you in just to demonstrate the features a little bit closer one more time. Change preset, Shift, press plus. Change category, pressing Shift, and then it moves about through all the levels of the browser. So I want to go back to everything. and then I can use this to shift up and down through absolutely everything, and then tap to load. It does also come with a grand piano as a separate instrument, which would be something along the lines of what's in here. I don't have the exact one necessarily. And with sustain on. In the chord mode, shift hold. I've set up two more keyboards here which are comparable-ish in terms of price with the Microlab. The Microlab is certainly the best value at about 69 quid, I think it is. This here is a complete M32, which is, I think, just over £100. And then at top here we've got the Launch Key Mini Mark II from Novation. The M32, its particular thing is that it comes with some fabulous software that's very tweakable. It has these knobs and controllers on the top, and it has a lot of functionality with that particular piece of software. The Launch Key Mini works brilliantly well with Ableton Live and has some of its own little uniqueness in the onboard arpeggiator, which is pretty darn awesome. But it's more expensive, about 89, so about 20 quid more expensive than the Microlab. This, again, more expensive. All I wanted to show quickly was just how the different keyboards feel, in case you are wondering between these three particular controllers which one would work best for you. Without doubt, the launch key at this end is the worst keyboard. It is very clicky clacky, very plastic, very lightweight is how that feels. You can hear it springing back. However, the arpeggiator in here is awesome, which is why I like that particular one. The M32 is pretty nice. And then the Microlab. I mean, this is slightly heavier. The Microlab has a heavier feel to it than the M32. Don't know if it's something to do with the physical thickness of the keys, but it has a heavier, slightly more dynamic feel. So actually, out of the three, the feel of the Microlab is probably the nicest. You know, just a tiny bit. In terms of feel, it definitely beats the Launch Key Mini, without a doubt, but then I think most things do. The Launch Key Mini's power is in its ability to run Ableton Live, these shortcuts with the pads and getting tracks to go and the mapping of the knobs, all that sort of thing. So for Ableton Live on the go, that's a great choice. M32 is brilliant with its own complete software. That works really well, and it is a good size, and you do get a bit more of an octave range going on. It also has sustain pedal inputs, so you can control it from foot pedal, that kind of thing. So it has good things about it, undoubtedly. The Microlab, it just feels nice. No slouch. Obviously, it's just got a couple of octaves, and the feature set is small. You've just got a chord mode, and you can move presets without having to actually pick up the mouse. So it has a couple of features, but not as many as this, and it has no sustain pedal input. It just has the hold button. But at least it has the hold button. You also get an 8-track version of Bitwig Studio, which is a decent, interesting piece of recording software. You can record tracks lengthwise, long, meandering MIDI and audio tracks. You can record vocals, instruments, guitars, whatever you can plug into your computer you can record. And obviously you can record from the little keyboard here, either the internal instruments or other instruments or the Analog Lab instruments. So this is actually the full version of Bitwig Studio, of course, but the 8-track version, everything I'm going to do here is what you can do in the 8-track version. You just get 8 tracks of these. You can have 8 different sounds going at once, or 4 tracks of audio, 4 tracks of MIDI. You get the idea, but here's just a quick demo of how you can create loops and clips within Bitwig Studio with the Microlab and a couple of Analog Labs. Yeah? We'll give it a go. So that's the Microlab from Arturia. It's simple, it's cheap, it's relatively rugged, doesn't fall apart. It's not packed full of features, but it's great value. The buttons on here are useful, chord mode is useful, the software that comes with it is decent, good sounds, some recording and stuff you can do with it, and you can navigate your sounds with the little buttons here. The feel of this is as good as anything under 100 quid, I reckon, and actually beats some of the other ones that I've also tried. It's fun, it's easy, it looks great if you like that sort of thing, so yeah, not a bad job. And I still really like the fact that the cable packs away into itself so that you don't lose it. So now I'm going to talk about those other 2 factors that I mentioned at the beginning. Latency, and running it on your iPhone. Right, then this has nothing to do with Arturia as such. This is to do with the sort of devices that you plug it into. So this is going to be applicable to any USB MIDI controller that you have. And so that's why I believe this is a useful thing to talk about with this, because if you've just bought this and only this, you may run into a few problems. You see, while I've been demonstrating this keyboard, I've been running the audio, because the audio, the sound, doesn't come from here. There's no sound in here. It's just sending MIDI commands over USB to the computer. The computer creates the sound. And I've been using this box up here, the Motu M4, which is an audio interface, also a USB audio interface, plugs into the side and provides me with high quality audio and very low latency. What's latency? All together now. Latency is a difference between hitting a key and hearing the sound, because it takes the computer time to generate that sound. If you've got a hardware synthesizer, it is hardwired to work immediately. Press a key, hear a sound. It's there. Or if you're playing a piano, which is an acoustic instrument, you press a key, it hits a hammer, hits the string, you hear the sound. All of that happens pretty much instantaneously. With a computer, it has to go, oh, a sound, right, okay, so I've got to do a bunch of maths, got to put that together, I've then got to package it up and stream it out of an output which is over there and send it out of there so that you can hear it. So there's a lot of stuff going on, albeit very fast, inside a computer in order to generate that sound. With a proper audio interface that has drivers written precisely to accomplish this, there's no problem. You get sound. Sound happens immediately, more or less, and that's brilliant. But if you've bought this for your laptop or your computer and you don't have a USB audio interface or some other form of audio interface, then you are going to be dealing with the onboard sound. And that may or may not cause you some trouble. But let me show you what may happen and how to get the best out of it so that you don't start playing with this and think, well, it's a bit rubbish, because it's not going to be this. It's not the fault of the keyboard. It's going to be Windows and your computer. So here's our lovely sound. Instantaneously coming through the Motu. You can see the output flash on there. Brilliant. So you don't have that. What else can we use? Well, with the Surface Pro, of course, it's that little bit more complicated because you have two drivers, one for the speakers and one for the headphone socket. Speakers, not great. You don't really want that. You want it through headphones or through your desktop speakers or something like that. So let's have a look at that, how you do that, and let's see where we get to. So under the settings in Analog Lab, audio MIDI settings, you have a few choices. Let me bring you in. You will probably get to use Windows Audio. That is going to be, generally speaking, your best choice out of the box. Windows Audio is the Wasapi driver for Windows 10, which is potentially going to offer you the lowest form of latency. Now, because I've still got this Motu attached, that comes up as an option, but normally speaking, I've got here speakers. Realtek speakers. You will have something similar. It may not be exactly that, but it will be something that refers to either the speakers or the headphone socket output of your computer. Now it's coming out of here. Now it says here that the buffer size is the amount of room in which the processor has to process the audio, is set to 10 milliseconds. And the result of that is a noticeable lag between hitting the key and hearing the note. To be able to hear this better, we really want this to come out of the headphone socket. So we can do that by plugging something in, like cable here, and that will activate my headphone socket. Then I'll be able to hear it properly. So if I reopen the settings, I now have an option for headphones. Which is better. I can now record it so you can hear it properly, and it obviously sounds a lot better than the speakers. However, that drag, that lag, is still there. Come back out a little bit so you can see the keyboard. It's not unplayable, but it's not anywhere near as nice as playing it back through the other audio interface. Now there are some settings. I can reduce the buffer size. But it doesn't ever go quite as low as it says it is. It says it's going down to 2.7 milliseconds. That's not what that is. So for my money, that's just not quite playable. You can get away with it, kinda. If you're playing other synthesizer sounds or pads, for instance, very much you can get away with it. But for that piano sound, it just feels draggy. What can you do? What can you do about that? Well, this is as low as it will go on this particular computer. On your computer, you may get better and different results. But there is one thing that we can do which is probably going to give it the best chance of working, and that's something called ASIO for All. Now, ASIO for All is a bit of a hack, but it's also an incredibly useful piece of software that you can install for free, and it will wrap up your Windows drivers, your audio outputs, your headphone output, your speaker outputs, whatever. It will wrap it up in something called an ASIO driver, ASIO, which stands for Audio System In-Out. At least it probably does. Nobody really knows what it means anymore. It's been around for so long. But the ASIO for All driver seems to somehow get underneath the Windows drivers and gives it better performance. It's weird, but there you are. So if you go to ASIO4all.com, you can download the driver, install it, and I will show you, hopefully, how to set that up. Because, of course, these things aren't ever easy. So, under the settings within Analog Lab, or whatever you're using, you would go to ASIO. Now, the Motu M4 that I've got installed has an ASIO driver. That's what enables it to do lots of lovely low latency. But I'm going to want the ASIO for All driver there. Now that creates a little icon down here, which gives you access to a control panel, which is very important, but also very, very small and difficult to see. I'm going to put the settings down here, so perhaps you can see them better. So this lists all the audio drivers that are in your system, because it can use any of them. So I'm going to want to look at the Realtek ones, because that's the chip manufacturer that runs the headphone socket and the speakers on this particular computer. Yours may be called something different, but hopefully you get the idea. Now I want to press the spanner button down here, which gives us some advanced options. Don't be alarmed by the options. What you're interested in is a little bit of trial and error, because there are various drivers associated with your audio system. Potentially, you may only have the one, use the one, see what that sounds like. But if you have many, that will be because you may have different drivers for stereo output, different drivers for surround sound output, and various things like that within the context of your computer and your laptop. So within the context of the audio system on this Surface Pro that I'm using, I get a stereo output at 48K. I get an 8 times output at 192K, which is a surround sound output. But I also get a headset microphone, I get a mic input, and I get another audio output down here. It gets a little bit complicated. What I want for the headphone output is simply the 2 times 48 24-bit output under Realtek HD Audio second output with SST. Now your system may not have this. It may have something different, but you can press the little buttons next to things to try them out. So anything that you don't think you need, do them one at a time. So disable everything except for the one that you want to use and test. So I'm using this one here. That's the only one that's activated. I've turned off all the others. Now that's improved the feel, but there's a bit of crackle. Now the crackle is because the buffer size set within ASIO for All is different to how it's set within Analog Lab, and that causes a little bit of a conflict. And so I need to make sure that the buffer size set in ASIO for All is set to the same one as it's set to in Analog Lab. If you go too small, if you try to go too small on the sample size, it's going to crackle. because the processor isn't getting enough space and time to process the audio. So it needs to be, I would say 256 is going to give you the most reliable level of playback, but you might be able to go lower. Again, it depends on your machine. So 256 samples is working the best that I can get it. And the feel is okay. It's not as awesome as using an external USB audio interface, but it's as good as I'm going to get. And that, I'm afraid, is the nature of using onboard sound on a Windows computer. You might get it feeling good enough to you. You're going to have to try it, and if you don't like it, then you're going to have to think about spending the same as you did on this, at least, on a proper USB audio interface in order to give you that low latency response that you should expect to get when playing software instruments. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. I hope that was helpful. Second issue I'd like to talk about is when using it with a phone, because this is completely class compliant with using an iPhone, but of course you can't actually plug it in because there's no USB socket. But that's okay, we can get around that, and I'll show you that in a moment. But this is the weirdness with iOS, the weirdness with the iPhone, the ones that don't have a headphone output, is that everything has to go through this lightning port here, and that makes things difficult. How do I get stuff in? How do I get sound out? Because as it is, I can run something like the fabulous Model D from Moog, like so. But obviously I don't want to press that, I want to press this. But also I want decent sound, so how can I get decent sound out of it? Well, I need to either have some kind of lightning device or Bluetooth, but then if you're using Bluetooth you're going to be hitting some potential delay of the audio going to the thing. So what you generally use is a little adapter like this, a headphone adapter that plugs into the end. You then take that same output that you used before, plug that in there, and I've now, great, this is excellent, I've now got a synthesizer coming out of here into something that I can hear, into my headphones or into my system, my studio. Great. But how do I plug the keyboard in? Because now I've got something going in the end that's not going to work. Okay, so we need another dongle. So I'll take that out. The one you need is this. This is called the camera kit for reasons that no one really understands anymore. But it's the camera kit adapter, and it has a USB slot and a lightning slot on it. That sounds like a possibility. So I can plug this in to the side. Then take the USB output of my keyboard, plug that in, and with a bit of luck, a bit of magic, it totally doesn't work. You need to restart the app. Okay, so now I've got the Mini Moog going on there, and great, I've got it playing from here. Can you see both of these things at once? Awesome. But it's coming out of the phone. So how do I get the audio back over to my system, to my headphones, so that I can hear it? Now, where did my thing go? Okay, here it is. So let's try our audio adapter. Audio adapter into the lightning spot here. No, see, it says accessory not supported. So you can't do that. You can't run audio out of that lightning port. That's not going to work. All you can use in there is charging, which is probably not a bad idea since my phone is now running the keyboard and keeping that going. So what can I do? Well, you have to use another USB device, and you have to put them together through a hub. This is the only way I've found of doing this. There may be a more elegant solution. I mean, obviously, if you had a keyboard which had audio as well built into it, then that could work potentially. Or if you had an audio interface, again like this one, that has MIDI in it, so you could put a MIDI controller into that and use that for audio at the same time into your iPhone, that would also work. But assuming you don't have these things, but you may have something on the USB side that might work. For instance, down here, I've got our friend the iRig Stream. I did a big review of this very recently, and it's a great little box, great for live streaming and bits and pieces, but this can also work with an iPhone, obviously, for streaming, but you can use it not only via Lightning, but also via USB. So I could plug this in, and this could potentially provide the audio output that I want for the Moog. Are you following me so far? I hope so. So the plan is to use the keyboard to play the sounds, to use the iRig Stream to take the audio output from the iPhone, because currently I have nothing but the speakers. Got it? How do I do that? Well, I can have to do it via a hub. So if you have a hub knocking around, USB hub is what I'm talking about. It can be passive. This is passive. Ideally, if it's powered, then that's going to help stop you drain the battery of your phone. So with this, I can now plug in the keyboard. I can plug in the the iRig Stream, and use the output on the side of the iRig to hear everything. Okay, plug the hub back into here. Everything's on. There. There you go. It works. So I've now got the Mini Moog. Let's take another. So now I've got, just to go back over it one last time, so I got the Model D being played from the Microlab, coming out of an iRig Stream via the camera adapter USB kit thingy into the side of my iPhone. I'm charging it from here. The phone is powering everything else. It's going in via this USB hub. Got it? Now that So there you go. I hope that was helpful. That's the Arturia Microlab stuffed into iOS on an iPhone, stuffed into a Surface computer, playing sounds, being a MIDI controller, getting sound out of things at relatively low latencies. That's fun for everyone to play. I hope that's been useful to you. And please, by all means, ask me questions in the comments, and I'll try my best to not be too sarcastic or unkind when I answer all the obvious stuff. That's all right. I'll do my best. I promise. If this has been useful to you, then do consider subscribing, sharing, tell people about it. Come and join us on Patreon and throw me a couple of dollars. That'd be awesome. And don't forget that every month I do a complete roundup of news and exciting things from, in and outside the music technology industry. I also do stuff on modular, do stuff on DIY, do other synth reviews, audio interfaces, software, bits and pieces. A huge load of stuff all over the channel which you might find interesting. So join us again, and in the meantime, go and make some tunes.